So last time we covered text one, and now today we will dive into text two and hopefully three. Two and three, I'm hoping to do two texts today, um, at least. Let's see. So last time we did the six things by which one can sort of embark on a spiritual journey. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jivva vegam, udarapastha vegam, etan vegan yo vishahet adhira, uh, sarvam apimam prithivim sashishat. Right? That one who can control these six things, the vacha vegam, the manasa krodha vegam, the words, the mind, the anger, vacha vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jivva, the tongue, udarapastha vegam, the belly and the genitals and the anger. Um, one who can control these six things can make disciples all over the world. So the essence of that was that in order to advance in spiritual life, we need to give up sense gratification. Right? Sense gratification and spiritual life don't go well together. So, and if we can, regulate these six things and thus conquer them, then we can make disciples all over the world. It's very interesting that this verse, the first verse, doesn't say, Krishna bhakti, chanting, all these things. It says anyone who can control these six things can make disciples all over the world. Of course, we know that Vacho Vegham means chanting Hare Krishna, but it doesn't specifically mention it. Why? Because in order to do these six things, one will have to chant Hare Krishna and engage in the process of bhakti. Right? That's why he didn't have to. I mean, he could have just said one who chants Hare Krishna continuously is qualified to make disciples all over the world. But he doesn't do that. He says that our chanting of Hare Krishna will be known by the effect of the chanting of Hare Krishna. If we are chanting properly, then we will be able to control these six things. But if we're not chanting properly, even if we claim that we do, we won't be able to control these things. So many gurus, and that is the very definition of a charlatan guru. Most, actually most gurus in this world, they claim that they have great devotion to Krishna. So then how can you tell the difference? Because that you cannot witness, that's within the heart. So Srila Prabhupada says that one can know another person's advancement, or one can know that whether a person is a bona fide spiritual master, by the qualities that one cannot um, feign, that one cannot imitate or make a show of. One can make a show of tears coming down our eyes. One can make a show of, chanting when we don't do it most of the time, but only when we're in front of a big audience we do it. But we won't be able to make a show of not being attracted by material things if we are actually attracted by them, right? So, the false guru, does meditation, stands, sits very tightly with his back straight, and says, "I'm a great yogi." And who can say maybe he is a great yogi? So then people ask, how do you know who is a genuine guru? And this is one of the most common questions you will be asked or you are being asked if you are guiding others in their spiritual life. If you have a bhakti vriksha, right? Well, how do we know that even you are a genuine guru, as a teacher? And how do I find a genuine guru? Well, such a yogi who's sitting with his back straight, when, beautiful woman walks by, his eyes will look at that woman, or they won't be able to tolerate the urge to eat something or, to say something or to see something that they should not be doing, or to become angry when someone insults them, right? Those things you can feign for some time, but not long term. Because if you're a false guru, then you're a false guru for the very reason that you want those things. Otherwise, why would you become a false guru? Then you'd either become a true guru or you wouldn't become a guru. So those are things you cannot hide. And so Prabhupada said, actually, that is the definition of how to know who a genuine spiritual master is. So Nectar of Instruction has everything in it. And here we see that it's giving us the actual markers of a great soul. And even within our movement, you see, right? The ones who are genuine and who were genuine, um, they sometimes didn't make such a big splash in the movement. They were not so dynamic or this and that, but they continued on without difficulty. But those who were very dynamic, very people were praising great soul, all these things, they were maybe unable to continue because it was always some, it's not that because they weren't chanting it, because some fall down. It was obvious that, they were not able to control these urges. So what to speak of outside, even within our movement, we can see the genuineness of a person's spiritual development by these six things. That's why spiritual life begins in some ways with these things, because spiritual life begins by accepting a guru, and this is how you identify a guru. Now, on this verse, once we are on the spiritual path, then Rupa Goswami is explaining what are the hindrances on the path of bhakti. So when we come to spiritual life, now we have accepted a guru. Now we have found a spiritual teacher. We are engaged in bhajana kriya. We have faith and we're engaged in the process of Krishna consciousness. What are the stumbling blocks that we find on the process of bhakti? Just like someone may push a ball up the hill, and then what happens? Another person pushes it back down, or it gets pushed back down. So in your effort to push the ball up the hill, there are things that will push it back down, and those are the hindrances. And this is the text describing the hindrances. So the verse, I should have put a copy of the verse here, but it goes, Atyahara prayashasya prajalpa niyamagraha janasangasya lolyam cha shadbir bhakti vinashyati. So this verse is shadbir bhakti vinashyati. The next verse we'll see is shadbir bhakti prasidyati. This one, these six things destroy bhakti. The next six things that he describes strengthen bhakti. So everything is six, right? Six first, six next, six next. So that's why actually very interesting. Just didn't intend it that way. But last night, I gave a student lecture on at a university on Nectar of Instruction Text 1, because they wanted a talk on spiritual focus, on focus. So I thought this is a perfect verse. What does spiritual focus mean? These six things, vacha vega, manasa, krodha vega. And so the title was 6 Minutes with a Genius, right? Because Rupa Goswami, everything is six in 6 minutes with a genius. So these are the 6 minutes with the genius that we have today. What are the six things? Atyahara, overeating or collecting too much. Atyahara, we are overeating or collecting too much. And this is something that I can say definitely I suffer from, and we all suffer from overeating, right? It's so easy to do and so unnecessary. And this is why Srila Prabhupada has given us the process of fasting. Because by fasting, we realize, fasting on Ekadashi days, fasting on festival days, we realize that actually our body doesn't need so much. And actually, it's so nice. Of course, it's also painful in the beginning, but once we fast for some time, we realize, it's not too bad. Prayasaha, over endeavoring for the mundane things, right? So overeating or collecting is one thing, and then over endeavoring, intense endeavor. All of these things will go in detail. I'm just reading it. Prajalpa, engaging in village gossip. I was just doing that actually 2 days ago. So this is very bad. Prajalpa, village gossip. What do we gain from it? We just get old. We're just dying while we engage in gossip. Niyamagraha, too many rules and regulations with no spiritual advancement. So this word has two meanings. One is following too many rules and regulations. It's like, we're trying to be, like smarta brahmanas, don't, yes, eat, eat like this, don't do that, don't touch this, do this, don't do that. Or it can mean not following the rules and regulations and acting whimsically. That's niyamagraha. So being too ritualistic about the rules and regulations, it hinders bhakti. And at the same time, not following the rules and regulations prescribed by the acharyas, prescribed by the scriptures, can be a great hindrance to bhakti. Uh, we'll get again more into this, but just I don't forget later on when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was preaching in India, then his role, he said, in the marketplace of the holy name was a street sweeper, because he was removing all of these apasampradayas, sahajya sampradayas, and the specific quality of these sahajyas, he writes, is and of certain sahajyas like the shawls, balls, all these things, was that they liked doing kirtan, but they did not want to follow the rules and regulations. So sahajya doesn't necessarily mean someone who wears lipstick, a man who wears lipstick and a dress and says, I'm a gopi, and dances with other women, or a man who dresses up like Krishna and the others dress like Radha. That's an extreme form of sahajism. And that doesn't happen very often. But to some degree, we are all sahajya. And if it's too much, then it becomes sahajism. And what does that mean? The desire to 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 taste the something very high without following the rules and regulations, without wanting to follow the rules and regulations. So to make something very great cheap, Prabhupada says that what sahajya means. You take something very exalted and you make it cheap. And how do you make it cheap? By taking something very exalted, taking the name of Krishna, glorifying Krishna, talking about the leelas of Krishna, but not following the rules and regulations that make us qualified for that, that make us open or purified to engage in that activity. And that's sahajism. And we see that in our movement also. We see a trend, a kind of a philosophy that's shared. That, oh, it's okay just to do kirtan. If you're doing kirtan, holy name is the ultimate thing. And you don't really need to follow the rules and regulations. Or if someone really tells you to, then they're obviously fanatical. Well, they can be fanatical, but not obviously fanatical, because Rupa Goswami is saying that bhakti means following the rules and regulations. Jana Sangha, association with worldly minded persons. When we associate with worldly minded persons, that is the beginning of fall down, right? Jana Sangha. Lord Chaitanya says, Asat Sangha Tyago Ye Vaishnava Achara. He says the very definition of a Vaishnava is that he gives up worldly association, Asat Sangha. Very interesting that he doesn't say Vaishnava is someone who associates with good devotees. He says Vaishnava is someone who gives up materialistic association. Because even if we associate, if we are attached to materialistic association, we are engaged in that, we won't accept devotee association, or we will offend devotees. And then final one is lolium, the greed for mundane achievements hinders devotion. And you may wonder, well, what is the difference between this one and the second one? And we will get more into that. So they're slightly different. So the first one is atyahara, right? Having too much, eating too much. How do we know how much is too much? How to know the wrong kinds of things are that are too much for us. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Bhakti he says, if one accepts sense objects in the spirit of enjoyment, that is atyahara. But if sense objects are accepted as the Lord's mercy, and only as far as required and favorable for devotional service, then it is not atyahara. If sense objects are honestly accepted as the Lord's mercy, then yukta vairagya is easily attained. Sriman Mahaprabhu's order is to accept sense objects without attachment and chant Krishna's name. So, whenever we do anything in the spirit of enjoyment, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving the highest, highest bar. Anything that we do in the spirit of enjoyment is atyahara. He says, well, how much is too much? Well, actually, he's saying anything that you take for your own enjoyment is too much. So then what can I take? Well, you can take whatever is needed to maintain yourself or to for the service of Krishna. Atyahara means anything that's for sense enjoyment. So that means anything that you take for your needs is not collecting too much. Anything that you need for your needs to serve Krishna, you're not accepting it in the spirit of enjoyment, but in the spirit of your service. That is not atyahara. So, and we all know that, like we actually internally we know that, well, this is what I need to be properly situated, and actually I don't need that. Just like some people have small families, some people have big families. So you cannot say that if a devotee has a big house, they are intrinsically doing atyahara. Well, if they have a small family and a big house, that may be atyahara because it's more than what a person's need and taken only for the spirit of enjoyment. But if one has a big family and they take a big house because that's what they need to stay sane, people need rooms and bathrooms to do, then it's not atyahara. Furthermore, if a person is using that house, if one needs a big house also to conduct a program, their spiritual program, the Bhakti Vriksha, their, devotee, inviting devotees, having a guest, as grihasthas are supposed to do, is invite sannyasis and advanced devotees and brahmacharis and other grihasthas to their home. Then if one needs some space for that, there may not be atyahara. So we have to see what is actually for us and what is actually for Krishna. At the same time, we should not fool ourselves and others that, oh, this is actually for Krishna. I will do a Bhakti Vriksha once in a year, and for that I need a 8-bedroom house. Well, we're cheating ourselves, right? So are we actually using it for Krishna or is it actually for us? And that's how we decide if it's atyahara. So here are examples of devotees who showed that they're not overeating or over collecting, and their detachment. They accepted material things, even though they're the kings of the world. They had the greatest palaces. They had, thousands of horses, wives, attendants, but they were not doing atyahara because they accepted it fully in the sense that in the spirit of detachment and only for the Lord's service. Such examples are there, and they're in the Bhagavatam. Rupa Goswami or Prabhupada talks about them in the purport, and here they are. The best example is King Bharata, Srimad Bhagavatam 5:14-44. King Bharata had no attraction for either material opulences or liberation. He was such a great devotee and such a great king that the whole country is named after him, Bharat Varsha. And the quality, Bhagavatam describes a specific quality of detachment, was that when he gave up his kingdom, he was in good health. His body was stout and strong. He had a wife who was as beautiful as Shachi, the wife of Indra. He had material opulences that were envied even by the demigods. He was the, without question, emperor of the whole world. So there was no, there was no one, who he had to, who was challenging him. He was so powerful. And yet, when the time came, it said that he left all of that, just like one leaves stool after passing stool, just like one gives up stool after passing stool. It's not that he just gave it up out of duty, but he was still at, but after we pass stool, there's no attraction to it. It's just like we'd never think, I mean, am I losing something by flushing this down the toilet? No, it's just the thing you obviously do. You have no attraction for it. And that's the mood by which he left. No attachment, no attraction. Of course, we see later on, he did have some attraction for a deer. His attraction was not for the deer, his attraction was to the Kshatriya Dharma, that is my duty to be a protector. And in that mood of thinking that he's the doer, he forgot that the Lord is the protector. And rather than just doing his part, he tried to take the Lord's part. And thus he became entangled. So all the, Krishna, we're in the material world because even though he's so purified, there's still a subtle anartha there. That he wasn't attracted to any material opulences, but he was attracted to dharma in a mundane way, where he wanted to enjoy the honor of being, a great king and being the protector of the world still after giving up that role. And of course, that came, it said, because he offended his spiritual master. It came because of an aparadh. So therefore, he had to take one more birth as a deer, and then he became self-realized. But it's a very minor thing. But the point here is that this is an example of no atyahara. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:11-25, example of Vritasura. Vritasura does not care whether he is in heaven or has mystic power or gets liberation. He only wants eternal service. So wonderful, right? That there's a point when he was fighting Indra. He's a great demon devotee. A devotee who's born in a demon family, and he's fighting Indra. And Indra, his Vajra drops because Vritasura is so powerful. But Vritasura says, pick it up and kill me. Because I'm fighting out of duty. This is why I was created. But I don't really care about this heavenly kingdom. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28, Shiva addresses Sati. The devotees of the Lord are not afraid of anything because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan. For them, any position in the material world is as good as another. Again, no attraction for material things. Any position is good. And it's true, like in spiritual life, when you get really into it, it's like the internal life becomes so important that the external situation doesn't matter so much. It really doesn't matter, which city, which temple. It doesn't matter, as long as I can do my chanting every day, as long as I can read, as long as I can preach, there's opportunity to preach Krishna consciousness, we're happy. Indra tells Biti that devotees know their real self-interest. So Indra himself is actually very attached. He's an example of Atyahara. He goes into Diti's womb and he, tries to abort the embryo by cutting the embryo in 100 pieces. Yet that embryo is so powerful and is protected by the Lord. Those 100 pieces become into 100 children. So he can't kill those child, and it's a long story. But then once he comes out, he begs for forgiveness, and then in his begging for forgiveness, he tells Diti that I'm not a devotee because I don't know my self-interest. The devotees know their real self-interest because they are not attached to worldly things. So you see how, the point of showing all this is that in these 11 verses, Rupa Goswami has put all the Vedic literatures. Right? The whole philosophy of Bhagavatam is in that first verse of Atyahara. Be detached. Don't accept things in the mood of attachment. It doesn't belong to us anyway. We're going to leave it at the time of death anyway. So don't over endeavor for them. And this is like the theme of the whole verse. Don't be greedy for them. Don't have lolium for them. Don't over collect for these things because this mood of detachment is necessary. And if it's not there, then it will be a stumbling block in our practice of spiritual life. Prahlad Maharaj says, the pleasure of the Lord fulfills all one's desires. And so material benedictions and liberation have no value. Right? Our pleasure is not that the Lord benedicts us or blesses us, but our pleasure is seeing the pleasure of the Lord and his devotees. By seeing the pleasure of the devotees, that's the greatest benediction. That is the greatest reward one can have for one's devotional service. Food given to the stomach satisfies the whole body. Similarly, food offered to Krishna satisfies the whole body, and therefore the devotee does not need to overeat, because when he satisfies Krishna, and you see these, some of the times these devotees are the best cooks in the whole of ISKCON, and then they'll cook the whole feast, and then they won't even eat the feast. I've seen devotees like that. Like um, in Dallas, there's this devotee, Dhira Prabhu, something like that. He was Tamal Krishna Maharaj's best cook. Uh, he's an amazing cook. There in Kalachanji's, he cooks or he set the recipes, and it's so famous now that the line for that restaurant goes down the street. So, for Sadhu Sangha, 4,500 devotees are coming. The best cooks were called, so they called him, and he cooked for the devotees there. And his prasad was so perfect. The day that he would cook, the meal that he would cook was so perfect. Yet he has no attraction for the food that he cooks. Because when he pleases the devotees, he's fully satisfied. Fully satisfied. Srimad Bhagavatam 8:320. Gajendra says, I don't have experience of transcendental bliss, but I know that pure devotees are fully satisfied and don't want or pray for anything else. Right? They're fully satisfied and they don't pray for anything else. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani, or her expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, when the individual jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy. Their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma, or crippled-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya. So then, after this, then Rupa Goswami talks about the 6 things that are helpful principles in the advancement of spiritual life. But before we do that, somehow the slides didn't cover this. I want to talk about this one. What is the difference between over-endeavoring for mundane things and being greedy for mundane achievements? And Srila Prabhupada actually defines this. Let me look here. Sorry, here. Easy. Hmm. I can't find it. Does anyone remember? I think over endeavoring between the second one and the last one is um um hmm, I can't remember. Don't want to speculate. So we'll get maybe next time. I think it's one of your questions in your homework also. Sorry. Hmm.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I had one question if it is okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhuji. What is the difference between this Laulyam and the other Laulyam that we studied in the Nectar of
Devotion.
Devotion?
So that lolium was 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 lolium for Krishna. That was greed for Krishna that becomes the eligibility for the practice of pure devotional service, right? That was the what we talked about, that there's no requirement for pure devotional service other than intense greed or lolium for devotional service. And this lolium is for material things. It's the intense greed for material things, the desire, the attraction for material things. And when we have that intense desire, then we over endeavor, then we really endeavor for material things. So over endeavor means, again, more than what we need. So it's like, we can go and have an education, we can get a degree, but over endeavor means like, okay, I want 3 PhDs and I have to, be the number one in every course. So we make such high material ambitions and goals that we have no time left for spiritual life. But when our material goals, our endeavors are, practical for what we need, then we have time left for spiritual life. So we should be very greedy and over endeavoring for spiritual things, intensely endeavoring for spiritual things. But the opposite is true for material things. For material things, we just do our duty nicely, and that's it. We don't need to over endeavor.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay, so now the next verse. Utsahan nishayat dharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vrittir sadvir bhakti prasidyati. Six things that Rupa Goswami mentions that strengthen our devotional life. Utsaha, enthusiasm; nishyat, confidence; dharya, patience; tat karma, activities favorable for devotional service; sangatyagat, giving up the association of non-devotees. Here we are again, sato vritte, and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. So these are the six things that help a person in devotional life. Now, this is truly amazing, right? That Rupa Goswami summarizes his 11,000 verses in 11 verses. And so he's really condensing things down. And even even in 11 verses, it's so important that he repeats that point twice. He repeats something twice. In 11 verses, an executive summary, huge, super condensed crash summary, crash course. But even in that condensed summary, if he repeats something twice, it must be so important. So here we see Jana Sangha, Prajalpa, right? Prajalpa destroys our bhakti. That's village gossip. And village gossip happens in Jana Sangha, association of worldly minded persons. And it's, crystal clear here. Yet again, he brings it up. Again, he brings it up here. So, Sangatyagat. So, how important it must be to give up association of non devotees. So, let's take a moment here before we talk about the others. What does it mean, association of non devotees? Right? What does that mean? Does that mean giving up our job? Does it mean giving up our student life? Does it mean, going outside with a mask on? What does Sangatyaga mean? Anyone would like to suggest?
Those who don't have faith in Krishna, or those who don't believe the Lord has a form.
Yes. So they are the non-devotees. So Sangha Tyaga means we give up their association. So what does that mean? Because we all go to work, we all have a job, so does it mean we stop all those things?
Prabhu, we can give association and give them Krishna and try and avoid when they start talking mundane.
Okay.
We should not have intimate connection.
We should not have intimate connection. Okay. Others?
We should not be convinced by them. So, as in the previous lectures, you mentioned that giving our association to them, but not taking their effects on us.
Yes.
Also,
Yes.
we should not share our heart with them, eating
Mm.
prasadam together or sharing our not deep exchanges, taking their advices besides only material topics.
Yes. Yes.
Limit our association as much as we can.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Prabhuji Pankaj here. Like if we do that, how we will bring them, to a devotee level, right? So I think we should do everything. We should do
Mm.
our sincere best. And
Mm.
yeah, and if they are not there yet, they will automatically, part ways. But we should not leave any attempt to bring them, closer to Krishna consciousness.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's also an important point. Okay. Very nice.
Prabhuji, Hare
Yes.
Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Giving up association of non-devotees, what I understood is like there are people who are so attached to material world and their
Mm.
desires. They don't that they think that they are the controller and doer, and
Mm.
they don't want to accept Krishna or any third party as the supreme.
Mm.
And when we try giving our association to them, we should keep try doing it without any expectation and without getting affected, from their association.
Mm.
I agree what Prabhuji said, that we should give our association. That's what Prabhupada also used to say.
Mm.
And he made hippies too happy.
Yes.
So
Yes. Very nice point. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and all the points were very nice, and we can pray for them.
Mm. Mm. Okay. So we can pray for them, but not, directly associate with them. Yes.
So probably we can take a prime example of Kaikai
Ah.
when she was interacting with Mantra and saying that Ram is so dear to her and Ram is really good, and expressing all qualities of Ram. But eventually she got influenced by Mantra because Mantra kind of brainwashed her and also emotionally, in a way blackmailed her to prove her point is better. So we have to be really careful how we interact with those people who don't have any faith in Krishna and not get affected by what they are saying. So we have to maintain a safe distance and draw a line when we should stop.
Very good point, Ravo, that we miss in giving association, because we are weak and small, we may get influenced by their association and it may change our mind. Yes. Thank you. Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I was just trying to think on the Bhagavad Gita's direction and LAG, lust, anger, and greed. So if we get in the association where it increases my lust, anger, or greed, then I should try to avoid that association.
Yes. Yes. So these are very good points. And Prabhupada gives one example. Maybe I gave this before also, but he says that if a fly is sitting on your hand, it's touching your body, yet you are not associating with it, right? then you're not associating with it. It's touching your body, it's right there, but you're not associating with it. As many of you mentioned, association means actually the next 6 things that Rupa Goswami explains. Association means bhungte bhojayate chaiva. The main thing is sharing food. Sharing food. And this is why in our Krishna conscious movement, we think, oh, this is fanatical. Well, why we cannot, have lunch at the cafeteria or the restaurant. Because all a material consciousness, you could say a material exchange of consciousness happens at the table, at the dining table. Food, the exchange of food, it's one of the biggest conductors of consciousness, right? Like you have conductors of electricity. Metal is a conductor of electricity. You can get electrified or electrocuted because of that. Food is a conductor of consciousness. And this is why even Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, it said that they could not speak up when Draupadi was in such distress, when the most immoral thing was happening. Why? Because they're eating the salt of Duryodhana. They're eating the grains of Duryodhana. So, Asat Sangatyag, Ye Vaishnavachar. We may be such great Vaishnavas. Bhishma Dev is a Mahajan, but by his example, he is showing that even you're a Mahajan if you associate with non-devotees. And what does association mean? Rupa Goswami defines it in the next time. By eating with them and giving by becoming intimate with them, as Om mentioned, right? The intimate association, sharing your heart, making them your well-wishers, confiding in them, that is real association. But when we have a business relationship, like we're going to work, school, and it's a business relationship, and at the same time we are being very kind to them by sharing our Krishna consciousness with them, then that is not asat sangatyag, because we're not accepting their association. We have a business relationship for the purpose of service. Our job is our service. So therefore, in some ways, by even working there, we are engaging them in service, right? These companies that are employing devotees, they're getting some punya because they're employing devotees, and those devotees are taking that money and they're putting it in Krishna service. So that is okay. That is engagement of, kind of in Krishna service. But the heart is revealed only to devotees. The food is accepted only cooked by devotees. Just like it's that famous story of the alligator and the monkey. The monkey needed to cross the river. And so he doesn't know how to swim. And there's alligator in the river in Florida. We're in Florida land. So alligators are there everywhere. We saw one alligator in the lake in Orlando. So they're in every lake. So as a principle, you never swim in lakes in Florida because you might be swimming with an alligator. And so he needed the help of an alligator to cross the river. So he comes to the shore and he asks the alligator, "Can you take me across? I'll jump on your back." The alligator thinks, what a foolish monkey. After all, their brain is the size of a pea. And so he jumps on the back, and the alligator says, "Yes, yes, I will take you." And he goes all the way to the middle of the river. And he says, "Ha ha ha, now I will eat you up, foolish monkey. You're in the middle of the river, and I will have you as my lunch." Then the monkey said, "Oh, alligator, alligator, I forgot to tell you. The reason why I want to cross the river is because I forgot my heart on top of the tree there." And the alligator knew, and the monkey also knew, that the best part of the monkey, the most juicy part, is their heart, right? Because they don't have much of a brain, but they have a heart. That's heart beats. So the alligator, "Oh yes, you forgot the heart. Oh, that's the juiciest part." So then the alligator swims all the way to the other side. He swims to the other side and tells the monkey, "Okay, go up on the tree and get your heart." So he jumps up on the tree, and once he's on the tree, the monkey says, "Goodbye, alligator. Ha ha ha, I outsmarted you." So the moral of that is that we can associate with others. They were associating. He was sitting on his back, but we only give our heart to the devotees. And that is real association. The person, the place, who we hear, who we take their advice to heart, who we share our heart with, That is associated, and that we do with devotees. So one of the biggest asat sangha that we have in our modern society is the television, the internet, and the phone. And so many devotees, they give up everything for Krishna. They will, do great austerities for Krishna. But the TV is in the middle of their house. Big, the guru is still sitting, the material guru is still sitting, the one-eyed guru is sitting in the middle of their house. And at their most, saddest moments, when they are, their most vulnerable moments in the evening, when they're sitting with their family, they are giving their heart and their ear to this one-eyed guru called the TV. And that is the asat sangha, the bad association that one has to give up. And that is, Lord Chaitanya says, asat sangatyagi vaishnavachar. We have to give up that. We try to, this association, this devotee is not so good, I should give up their association. All these associations we give up. Yet the biggest weapon of Maya, which are these, movies and all these things that are so materialistic, the most base form of Maya, that we don't give up. And that is something that we need to give up. So this is something, a principle that Rupa Goswami has repeated twice. So we must understand that the importance of this, that if we really want to make spiritual advancement, we must seek out the association of devotees. And the only way we can do that is the only way we can do sato vritte is if we do sangha tyaga. As long as we're still in material association, the determination and the attraction for spiritual association will not come. We have to protect ourselves, our children, our families from that association. So let's talk about now from the beginning, utsaha. So what does this practically look like? Utsaha means intense and eager enjoyment, interest or approval. This is the dictionary definition. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he defines enthusiasm as action performed with intelligence. Enthusiasm doesn't mean that we be reckless, that we're just eager, reckless. But true enthusiasm means if we're truly enthusiastic about something, we apply our intelligence on how to reach it. Intelligence applied with activity, action with intelligence. Confidence. So utsaha means action, intense action with intelligence, fixed on Krishna. So this utsahan is Buddhi Yoga, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. It's the focus of the intelligence on Krishna, Buddhi Yoga. The second is confidence, which is Nishya. How is confidence defined? The feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. Firm trust. And this confidence is exhibited by the six symptoms of surrender. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. And this is actually the biggest lesson in our spiritual life, that to actually solve our problems, even our spiritual challenges, we must depend upon Krishna. We really have to depend upon Krishna and know that Krishna will protect me so that I can successfully execute my devotional service. And if he doesn't want to, if he wants to chastise me or correct me or improve me, then he won't protect me so that I can learn something. And that is his protection. That is his protection. That somehow or the other, he's put me in this embarrassing situation or in this bad situation because he's protecting my devotional life so that I don't become proud or I don't become materialistic in mind. But the confidence is that Krishna's protection is there. I am a servant of Krishna. That if I engage in this devotional life, Krishna will protect me. I have this confidence. Krishna will guide me. And then the third one, which is very important, that performing devotional service with patience. We perform devotional service, and by the third day, we are feeling that why we are not feeling ecstatic symptoms. The capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset is called patience. Wow, what a nice definition. The capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. One should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So one time, Srila Prabhupada told his devotees, his disciples, he said that, and he was using the Ramakrishna mission as an example, that they have the 20-year rule, that you go to a place and you stay there for 20 years. You just start a project and you sit with this for 20 years. And then you do any change. You develop it for 20 years. And Prabhupada similarly said that if you go somewhere and you preach for 20 years, he said, then I will come. Right? Go somewhere meaning the place where your spiritual master has told you to go. Prabhupada would instruct devotees go here and there. Of course, it doesn't have to be 20 years. But the point that he's making is that when we execute the order of the spiritual master with patience, then the Lord's mercy manifests. One devotee told me that somewhere there's a quote from Prabhupada that if you practice Krishna consciousness without, without, not without, but if you stay in a Krishna consciousness, you keep it alive for 50 years, he says you will go back home, back to Godhead. And now many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples have already or are about to reach the 50-year mark, that they have been practicing strictly, intensely, wonderfully Krishna consciousness for 50 years. And you see they're fully liberated. One should not be impatient in discharging the execution. So impatience is a sign of a lack of confidence. What if we are fully confident, we will be patient. Just like I think it was Mukund, not Chota Haridas, but there's another devotee who Lord Chaitanya told him that, don't let him come in front of me, because he was a brahmachari who had done something wrong. It's very minor, but he said, I don't want to ever see his face again. So he was very sad. The devotees were sad. He was thinking, I should give up my life or this or that. And so one devotee on his behalf, he asked one devotee to ask Lord Chaitanya that can you just ask Lord Chaitanya that when will I have the chance to come back in his association? If anyone knows the name, this is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, then please let me know.
Isn't that Chota Haridas?
So Chota Haridas, was he the one who actually does commit suicide, right? But there's one devotee who doesn't commit suicide, and Lord Chaitanya actually accepts him back. So, and he's a different one. So I think he's, so he comes and he asks, please ask Lord Chaitanya. So the devotees go and ask, and Lord Chaitanya says that tell him that for 1,000,000 lifetimes, he will not see me. For 1,000,000 lifetimes. So they go back and they tell this devotee, the Lord Chaitanya said that you will see him only after 1,000,000 lifetimes. For 1,000,000 lifetimes, you will not do it. And when this devotee hears this, when this great acharya, this great devotee hears this,
He began to dance.
he begins to dance, yes. He begins to dance in ecstasy. He's twirling around, right? And Lord Chaitanya is observing all this. And when he sees that his devotee, I mean, he should have been like, right, Om? He should have just like broken down in tears 1,000,000 lifetimes. Probably one of them is going to be Brahma's lifetime. So, 1,000,000,000 times 1,000,000. All this time, I won't be able to see the Lord just because of one small thing. I was such a dedicated devotee. I, got up for Mangalarti every single day. I chanted 64 rounds every single day. I only ate Krishna Prasad. And now a small offense, and for 1,000,000 lifetimes, he could have complained. He could have been distraught, but he begins to dance in ecstasy. And Lord Chaitanya says that such are my devotees. Look at the
Prabhuji,
patience.
is it Mukunda Datta?
Yes, Mukunda Datta. I remember it is Mukunda. So if you corroborated it, then it must be Mukunda Datta. So Lord Chaitanya becomes so pleased with him that what is, look at the mood, the approach of this devotee, that he values my association so much that he's willing to wait for it for 1,000,000 lifetimes. That is patience. And he's so confident in my words. That's the previous one, the confidence, that he's has full trust that after 1,000,000 lifetimes he will see me. And so then immediately after that, Lord Chaitanya calls him back in and gives him his association. So that should be the patience of one's mind and heart. Just like many people in this movement, they say that so many gurus fall down. So why should I get a guru? Now actually not many gurus fall down, but there was a time in ISKCON when they fell down. And at that time, people were saying, they fall down, so why should I take a guru? And I heard Danavir Maharaj one time respond to this, and he said that our patience and determination to reach Krishna should be so strong that we should tell Krishna that I'm willing to go through even 1,000,000 gurus to finally get a genuine guru so that I can take your shelter. So what to speak of? People say, well, I had one guru, they had two guru, and even the third guru fell down. I know one man. Even the third guru he took initiation fell down. And he said, then I gave up. Then I said, no, this must be not real. But why should we give up? We have so many teachers. Most of them are bad teachers when we go to school. When we get one good teacher, and then that becomes like, they teach us something that becomes our career. But in spiritual life, the first guru should be perfect. Otherwise, the whole thing is a farce. Who says that? We should be willing to go through 1,000,000 gurus. That should be our patience. That Krishna, whatever your plan is, I am on this path, I'm steadfast, and I'll keep moving forward. Even if I keep getting failure, I'll keep moving forward. That's why Gauranga Prabhu, one of his nice lines that I like, he has these like sutras that he says, is that there's no defeat in this world. No one can defeat you. The only defeat is the loss of our determination. We have been defeated when we lose our determination in any field. If the competition is so strong, if you're a businessman, and we lose our determination to, advertise and produce the product, that is defeat. And that's what when there's a war also, like Russia, Ukraine, they're fighting. The number one thing that they want to do is break the determination of the other side. And that's why, they go and they, bomb all the hospitals, and it's ruthless. It's not right. But what is the mentality? They want to break the determination of the other side, because then you have victory. Immediately you have victory. It's not the bombs or the barrels or things that they have to break. The first thing they have to do is break their determination, so they break their power grids. So all the citizens start complaining, they're freezing. The leaders, they get a bad rapport, so their determination breaks. So if the devotee's determination never breaks, then they will be patient. That however long it takes, however lifetimes it takes, doesn't matter. I will keep moving forward because Krishna's mercy will come, and I have patience for that. There's one devotee in the early days who just joined, and after a few weeks, he started chanting 64 rounds a day because he was like, I've got to, make advancement, be the best devotee here. And after 2 weeks, then he disappeared. He blooped. And then Prabhupada he said, one cannot get the spiritual world by storm. This is in Prabhupada Lilamrit. Prabhupada responds to the other devotees, says, one cannot actually get the spiritual world by storm. Right? One has to be patient. One can't demand the guru must accept me. I should get, immediate initiation or immediate acceptance. So Prabhupada is saying here, bhakti is a sort of cultivation. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation. As some pseudo-yogis teach, such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service. And for this reason, it is sometimes recommended as a way to check distracting material activities. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities, at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages one in meaningful devotional activities. Okay, I'll give you a minute to digest that. In the meantime, I have to do one very small thing. So, so now what does this mean? We said utsahan nishyadharyat tat karma. So we did enthusiasm, confidence, and patience. Now, activities favorable for devotional service. So do activities, right? Action. We must engage in seva. And this is often now underrated in our movement, which is the importance of hard work for Krishna, service for Krishna. When we actually do service, we make advancement. People actually become attached to Krishna consciousness. When they're engaged in some seva, we must do activities. Of course, chanting is also it is the most important activity. Other activities also, we get the taste by performing activities. All activities that are favorable for devotional service, most importantly being hearing and chanting about Krishna. And that here Prabhupada is saying that spiritual life doesn't mean idle talk, idly sitting, but it means active devotional service. We should get involved. We should get, we were in the Sadhu Sangha and Shivram Maharaj, whoever he was meeting, all the young devotees, men, women, everyone, he was telling them, why don't you move in the temple? Move in the temple. Because Prabhupada's generation is seeing that the trend, it used to be people would join the temple and serve full time, and then they would become pure devotees. Like it's often, not always, but because that absorption is different when you're doing it 24 hours a day. And now it's like, even temples, they don't want ashrams. They're like, everyone's like, well, I'll do my own thing. I'll come on Sundays. Like we're becoming a little bit like a Christian organization. And if you do too much, if you do a little more, then people say, oh, Prabhu, you must be, you must be overextending yourself. But no, that's activity. Let us be active. One who has life will preach. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has said, one who has life will preach. Let us be absorbed in the activities of Krishna consciousness. And what are these activities? These are the 9 processes. Shavaram, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedana. And the 9th one, surrendering oneself fully to the Lord, that is the manifestation of the 6 symptoms of surrender. And that is the confidence that is related with confidence. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full surrender, and humility. So what are these 6 symptoms of surrender? Oops, I thought I had them listed. I guess I didn't, sorry. Oopsie. So go through them. I thought I had them listed separately. Okay. And then this is 2 more slides and then we're done. Are accepting those things favorable for devotional service, which is what we are doing right now. The 6 things that are helping our devotional service. Rejecting unfavorable things. So if we're surrendered to Krishna, we'll accept whatever is dear to him, we'll give up whatever is averse to him. The conviction that the Lord will give protection. The acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master. Right? So Krishna is my only master and he is my guardian also. Full self-surrender, Atmanivedanam, and humility. We also simultaneously feel very humble. And the last one, Sangatyaga Satovritte. Satovritte means following in the footsteps of the great devotees of the Lord. What does that mean? Following the 4 regulated principles of freedom and chanting a prescribed number of rounds. This is following in the footsteps. Right? Why is this necessary? Following the 4 regulated principles and chanting a prescribed number of rounds. People say, well, I can just do it my way. Because satovritte. This is what the great souls have told us to do. Association with devotees practicing the regulated principles, Vaidhi Bhakti. That is, we get, if we associate with devotees who are practicing Vaidhi Bhakti seriously, we will make advancement very quickly. Because we'll always be absorbed in this ecstasy of spiritual life. We'll always be, we'll be training our mind and we'll be experiencing spiritual taste, spiritual happiness. And then we're like, no, I don't need the material happiness. And that leads us from matter to spirit. So the point is that we are our mind becomes trained to say that actually when we even see material things, material sources of enjoyment, material objects, we see them, but we're not attracted to them because we think, oh no, but I am interested in that spiritual happiness. And this material happiness, it's very paltry, it's very kind of ordinary. So I will stop here and see if there's any comments or questions on these 2 verses. Then Chor Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. I frequently use the Sahaja example. You gave it a few months ago as well. In my discussions with devotees, my peers in devotional service, and they appreciate it. I had one question regarding Jana Sangha, and I know you and I have discussed this previously, but I have a clarifying question. So I'm currently like in my early career, and I noticed that just like the way we as devotees don't bring our full self to work, in the sense that when we are in our meetings, we're just talking about our jobs. We're not talking about, like this is our sadhana and everything. Materialists, they also are just, they're very focused, very professional at meetings, and then at lunch, everything spills out, all their sinful habits, they come to light and stuff. But I find that in the workplace, although it's not explicitly, like mentioned in the job roles or job description, there's a very subtle, um, almost subtle requirement to engage nicely with your coworkers, especially over lunch. And they usually put it in the form of, okay, you need to be integrated with the company culture. something along those lines. So that may mean like required lunches with our bosses, required lunches. And I mean, we mentioned that, in when working, we try not to eat with our coworkers if we don't have to, because that's when everyone's habits come to light and everyone's thoughts come to light. So how do we, balance that, so to speak? Like we
Yes.
have to do this because it's required for our job, even though like we shouldn't.
Yes. So that's a very good point because excuse me, I also face that. And to develop, just, relationships and to rise in your career, one has to take people out for lunch. It's just a fact. And if they take you out for lunch, you have to go also. And that's where that definition of atyahara, which is so nice, comes in. Atyahara means overeating or over collecting. That atyahara is that which we accept in the spirit of enjoyment, in the spirit of enjoying sense gratification. So even that, at times we have to go out for lunch. We can do that and not be janasanga, not be in materialistic association, if we're not doing that in the spirit of enjoyment, right? So the boss has called us out for lunch. We need to go. I mean, this way of respecting your boss, especially sometimes they're inviting you to their home. And then when you're there, they've made a special this or something. One has to participate in that whole thing. But then when we're sitting down the table, we have two options. We can just start eating that food in the spirit of enjoyment. Well, what can I do? This is for my service, for my job. And now, they brought a mushroom sandwich and I'm just gonna, eat it down because, well, we say no onions and mushroom and garlic, but got to make a relationship. Or we can accept the invitation and before that tell our boss that, I'm actually I have what I do is I always tell them the same story from the beginning. Otherwise, it seems like then people don't respect you. So from the beginning, you just say, I have a special diet due to my spiritual practices. And there's a lot of things, like I don't eat onions, garlic, mushroom, I don't eat meat, like there's too many things for you. So to make it easy, I just like to have a salad. I always just have a salad for lunch. And please, no onions in that, no garlic, no mushroom. And so you accept the invitation, but in the spirit of service, not in the spirit of enjoyment. And I've caught myself on this also, like sometimes going out for lunch and then just eating there more than required, like getting into it, like, well, oh, this is actually tasty and might as well, I'm eating it, I'm out. So let's go the full 9 yards, right? So it's jana sangha if we are accepting that in the spirit of enjoyment. But even that can be done in the spirit of detachment. So we all have the required lunches and dinners. I remember when I joined my graduate school, they had some required lunches and dinners. You had to go for them. And sometimes it got really intense because this is at Oxford University and they drink a lot of wine there. So the first required lunch that I went, I can't, or maybe it was a dinner, the provost of that college, he gets on the stage and he says, drinking is part of our culture and drinking will become part of your culture. And then on every table in front of every person, there was $100 bottle of wine. And then at the end, everyone's drinking and I wasn't drinking. And so a group of like 20 young guys, they just out of fun, they got on my case and they're like, why don't you drink? Why don't you join this? So I said, I've never drunk. I said, well, how do you know it's bad if you've never drunk? And they, no, you have to drink. No, you have to drink. And I remember the peer pressure was so strong that I was about to drink because like I didn't know what to do. There's like 40 people around me. And there's just try a sip, just try a sip. But I didn't want to at all. Like, I was like really not wanting to, but it was real experience of peer pressure. My first experience, first day there, didn't know, had never experienced this. And out of the whole group of 40 young kids, one of them, he says, "Oh, guys, give him a break. Don't push him. So, if he doesn't want to do it, don't force him." And it's Krishna's help, right? Krishna helped because the intention wasn't to go there, it was to enjoy. It was a required lunch. I had to go. So that one boy spoke up, and that just became my way out. So I found one voice there giving, and he says, "Oh, guys, give him a break." And then I was like, "Yeah, give me a break." And then I was like, got out of it. So when we do something in the spirit of detachment and as our duty, but not in the spirit of enjoyment, then Krishna helps us. I'm sure if I went there every lunch that I possibly could and went there, then Krishna may not have given that help. But he gave that help because we were doing our part. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you. Rani, I think you were next. Rani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So, my question was related to the slide where you mentioned, why meditation is, it's not a source of connecting to
Mm,
Lord, and why bhakti is important.
yes.
So, no, definitely bhakti is important and it keeps you more engaged.
Mm.
However, can meditation and bhakti cannot go hand in hand, like together, parallelly?
Can bhakti and what go together?
Meditation,
Ah, yes.
it can, right?
Yes.
So like in meditation, I do meditation, that's why I'm asking, that we do learn grounding techniques, right?
Yes.
And I think that is, I have taken it towards my chanting,
Mm.
also that why grounding is important.
Mm.
And then I continue my chanting. So it has helped me because maybe I do not know any other way doing it. So I just wanted to get some ideas from you.
Yes. So actually, real meditation is bhakti, right? Real meditation is bhakti because Krishna in the Gita describes a yoga ladder, and he says the highest form of yoga, the yoga ladder, the highest ladder, is always fixing your mind on me, right? The highest form of bhakti is to fix your mind on Krishna. So when people meditate, but they meditate on emptiness, right? They're doing meditation. That's nice. That's good. But the meditation is empty, right? It's contentless. So that's good. But real meditation, the goal of meditation is to fix the mind on Krishna. So meditation is very good. But we must remind ourselves that what is the goal of meditation? Is it just to pacify the mind, or is it actually to connect with Krishna? So the word yoga means to connect or link. So when we meditate on Krishna, then we're connecting with Krishna. Then we're connecting with the Supreme. So, and that is actually the Hare Krishna mantra. When we are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, if we're doing it properly, if we're doing it nicely, then we're meditating on the sound vibration. We're meditating on Krishna's name. And that is the highest, that is the deepest meditation, because the name of God is spiritual, it's transcendental. So therefore, we recommend this mantra meditation. Other meditations are also there. But whichever meditation it may be, the soul wants to be linked with the Supreme Soul.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Rashi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for another wonderful class. Actually, when you were answering Prabhu's question, something came to. I was thinking about the difference between Atyahara and Laulyam. And I was just wondering if you actually answered that. If one is outward activity and the other one is our consciousness, like something internal, mental. I don't know if this is right. Just going by the definitions and like what's driving us versus all the activity, like the outward activity that we are doing.
Yes,
Does
that's
that
a
make
good,
sense?
yeah. But I think I was mentioning that. So atyahara means over collecting. Prayasa means intense endeavor. So the difference between those two is clear. One is over collecting things. The other is, so I like, I have too many things in my house. I'm cluttered, too many projects, so many. The other is over endeavor, endeavoring very strongly. But the distinction between prayashascha and lolyam, or over endeavor and greed,
Right.
that one is very
Okay.
subtle. And that one, like you're saying, it's perfect what you're saying, that greed is more of an internal state. That I want greed, I want these things. And prayasha is the external manifestation of that greed, which is the intense endeavor. And that's a nice way to understand the difference between the two.
And desire need not, I mean, usually desire is what leads to all that endeavoring, all the activity, but need not also. So it's like an internal state of consciousness versus what we are doing externally, all the activities that, all the actions that we do, maybe. Am I
Yes,
understanding that right?
absolutely. Greed is an
Yeah.
intensified version of desire, right? Lust turns into greed. Krishna says in the Gita, Dhyayato Vishyan Punsa Sangaseshu Vijayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodhat Vijayate. So, so Kama turns into greed. So first desire, which is contemplation, desire turns into lust, and lust turns into greed.
Thank you,
Right?
Prabhu.
Yes.
A question that I had was on the second and the third verse. So practically speaking, how do we distinguish between healthy enthusiasm for our service and like over endeavoring? Because sometimes they can look the same. And then I guess, how do we catch ourselves?
Healthy enthusiasm and over endeavoring. What's the difference between the two? Yes, that's a good question. That's why Prabhupada defines enthusiasm as activity in Krishna consciousness performed with intelligence. That's the intelligence part. That, well, okay, so the enthusiasm is that I want to wake up early in the morning and chant. But so I think, okay, I'll wake up at 2 in the morning and I'll chant, even though I slept at midnight the night before. So that's enthusiasm, but I cannot sustain that. I can't sleep only 2 hours a day, and therefore it's not performed with intelligence. So when we don't perform with intelligence, then it's over endeavor. And when we perform it with intelligence, then it's enthusiasm. When our buddhi is fixed on Krishna, that I want Krishna as my goal, then we read the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, not too much, not too little. One who sleeps too much or too little, one who eats too much or too little, neither of them can come to me. So that's enthusiasm. When we perform it with intelligence. And when we just endeavor, then that's prayasha.
Got it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Very nice. Om. Oh, you're muted.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharmaprabhuji Prabhupada Gurudev. As usual, very nice class. My question is based on that when we go to somebody's house, or let's say, is it okay to eat at somebody's house who has cooked meat or who cooked meat, but they made it special for us with no under garlic, no meat, no. I mean, of course, we know Srila Prabhupada never preferred that, but we're not as qualified as him. So, should we eat at that place or?
Yeah, so my Guru Maharaj, and you can ask others also, he used to say that we shouldn't eat at a place where meat is cooked. So if the kitchen has meat in it, if the pots have meat in it, we should avoid eating grains there, at least grains, right? So we can go and have a salad there, we can have fruits there, maybe even a sweet there. There's something special about sweets, like, it's just a sweet. But if we eat grains, even though they say that, at the end of the day, there'll be onions and garlic, some powder that they use that has that, or the utensils that they were used for meat, and they weren't washed properly, or even if they were impurified because meat or alcohol has been in them. So the standard is that we don't eat at a place where meat is cooked. And then what we do, we give them an option. We say, how about a nice salad? The exception for that is sometimes relatives, right? Relatives, one has to relate with them in a relative way. One has to, be kind to them, and one has to, and again, enthusiasm is endeavoring Krishna consciousness with intelligence. So we can't break off the relationship immediately. Our mother fed us, and now she's making a special meal for us, but she still eats meat. Not my mother, but someone's mother, when we have that, then one has to still respect her love and her offering, and say, okay, I'll accept it. But if there's some distant relative and they're just doing a big thing, we're not obliged. We have spiritual standards. We're not obliged. But we have to express that in a very loving way, not put them down, but just say, I've taken some vratas. And these vratas, they're very annoying, but what can I do? I can't eat at all these things. You can do it like that. We should put it on ourselves that I have these limitations. But certain relationships, again, we will have to respect and make compromises, like immediate family members and their desire to cook for us. And if they do it in exactly the way, make a special effort for us, we may need to accept it. Sometimes, Prabhupada, for very special people who were who were very essential for his movement, just to not offend them. At least one instance is there. He even accepted something that they gave to him with onions and garlic. And he told his disciples, don't say anything because they will feel, embarrassed or offended. Just accept, and then in the future we will fix it. So Prabhupada was very intelligent, and we can't imitate him, but we have to be, we have to think what will be best for bringing the soul to Krishna and also keeping myself in Krishna's service. So not that I bring them and I fall down. Both, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Virji.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Last question, then we'll have summary by Haripriya Sucharu Rani Mataji.
Prabhuji, there's one more confusion. Like, in scripture, it says that even I've heard from many devotees, like, if you have a pet in your home, then they're also like, should we have prasad over there or not?
Yes, that's a difficult one because for practical purposes, sometimes you'll find pet hair in the food. And you're just like, like it's bad to have human hair, then you have pet hair in the food. And dogs, they're so dirty, like sometimes they're licking their bum and then they, that same hair that gets, so it's very moochy. Yeah. One should avoid at all costs. We should avoid. But again, we have to see sometimes to cultivate people, we have to go to their home and we have to, do a bhakti vriksha there. And just recently I was facing that here, and the person made a huge effort, and they cleaned every door, every blanket, every place in their home. And even the pet was not theirs, it was their parents, and he couldn't tell his parents to get rid of the pet. And we did a program there and we had prasadam there. But they were very sincere devotees, and we just had to manage the situation. So for preaching, Prabhupada says, for the purpose of preaching, we can make some adjustment. And that actually fits in very well with our principles. Why? Because atyahara is when you accept things for personal sense enjoyment, right? Preaching is not for personal sense enjoyment. But when we're doing preaching, we're accepting it, but in the spirit of detachment. So yeah. Okay. Hari Priya, please give the summary.
So
I joined a little late, so I've came and you talked about Atyahara, Prayasa, Prajalpa, Janasanga, and Lalya. So Atyahara is overeating or collecting too much. Prayasa is over endeavoring for the mundane. Prajalpa is engaging in village gossip. And I forgot Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha is like too many rules and regulations with no bhakti, not following rules and regulations. And Jana Sangha is association with worldly minded persons or people. Lolem is greed for mundane achievements. And if sense objects are caused for one's enjoyment, that is atyahara. But if one is used, but if it is used for Krishna's service, then it is not atyahara. Examples are King Bharat. He had no attraction for either material opulences or liberation. Uh, but when he got attached to the deer, he was attracted to the mundane because, as he said, he was trying to follow the dharam of a Kshatriya. And Vritasur told Indra, "Kill me." So we can see that he was saying that kill me because I took birth for fighting with you. So kill me. And we can see that Lord Shiva also told Sati Devi, and Prahlad Maharaj says that our pleasure is when the Lord and his devotees are happy. And then Gajendra says that uh, uh, my, my satisfaction is when the Lord and the devotees are happy. And the difference between Prayasa and Lolya. So you told about that, and then helpful principles. Uh, that was verse 3, and utsahat, enthusiasm, and enthusiasm in the. So these are all positive ones, but in verse 2 they were all negative in the negative sense. Basically a positive devotional service. So utsaha is enthusiasm, nischayat is confidence, dharyat is patience, tat karma is devotional service, sangha tyagat is unassociate with non-devotees, and sato vrate, following in the footsteps of devotees. And cultivation of spirituality does not mean what pseudo yogis do, but doing devotional service which puts an end to all these nonsensical mundane activities. Prahlad Maharaj says that one should follow the 9 principles. The 9 symptom, like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmani Vedanam. So the 9 symptom, Atmani Vedanam, is a manifestation of the 6 symptoms of surrendering, which are all favorable to bhakti. And following in the footstep means following the regulations, the 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex, and chanting as many rounds as possible. And uh, association with devotees, practicing the regulative principles, Vaidhi Bhakti. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Such a nice summary. Actually, it's so important to summarize, and you do it so well. Thank you, everyone. So I shared all the homework for this book. And so you have it, you have the study guide, and so please continue doing it. And I am working on your Nectar devotion exams. I should have them graded maybe in a week or maybe 2 weeks time. I'm slow in grading, but it does get done. So thank you. See you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Vaishnav